Howdy do everyone. So, Super Mario 3D All-Stars just released, which is a collection of Super Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, and Mario Galaxy all on one cartridge for the Nintendo Switch. In today's video though, I'll be comparing the controls between the original console each game released on to the Switch port, with one camera pointed directly at my TV, whereas the other one onto the controller itself. Timestamps for each game can be found in the description below. Starting off with Super Mario 64. Originally, only the Nintendo 64 controller can be used with this game on official hardware, but I'll also be comparing this game's Virtual Console release with the Switch port that just came out, alongside the DS remake. The analog stick can move Mario in every direction, up, down, left, right, and in circles, with the D-pad serving no purpose. The left analog stick acts the same way in the Switch version. The D-pad also moves Mario either up, down, left, or right as well. The DS remake uses the D-pad to move Mario, as well as the analog stick on the 3DS or the touchscreen on both. 3D games were just becoming a thing, so the Nintendo 64 actually relied on its C buttons to control the camera, as it doesn't actually offer two different analog sticks. Pushing down twice will zoom out, pushing up will zoom in, pressing left multiple times moves left, and pressing right multiple times moves right, whereas the R trigger is used to change camera modes, pretty similar to the zoom function. The C buttons are replaced with the right analog stick and act pretty similar on the Switch, zooming the camera in and out while also moving it left or right, whereas both the L and R triggers can change the camera mode. The DS uses the L trigger to recenter the camera, holding it while running will keep it behind Mario, whereas X toggles between the three levels of zoom, or depending on your control mode, the touchscreen can also be used to do all this instead. A once, twice, or three times will give Mario his jump, as well as is used to interact with the environment, whereas pressing B will cause Mario to punch and kick. Running then B will make Mario do a belly slide, and B can also be used to interact with the environment. A and B are both mapped to the jump button, whereas X and Y act as the punch, kick, slide button. All four buttons can also be used to interact with the environment. Pressing B is how Mario jumps in the DS remake, whereas Y acts as a new run button, which is the default speed in every other version, and A is used for the punch, kick, slide move. Depending on your control mode, the touchscreen can also be used to make Mario run. The Z button will make Mario crouch and crawl around the ground like a baby. Standing still, crouching, and then a jump will do a backflip, whereas a jump then Z will cause a butt slam. The ZL and ZR back triggers are both assigned to make Mario crouch, and act in a similar way to the N64 release, whereas the DS version uses the R trigger to do the same thing. Pressing start on all the versions opens up the pause menu, whereas the select button doesn't exist on a Nintendo 64 controller, but on the Switch it is used as a mini menu to also pause the game, check the controls, view advanced movesets, and return back to the title screen. With the remake, using select to change between the three control options, standard mode, touch mode, and dual hand mode. Which brings us to customization. As mentioned a few seconds ago, the DS version actually offers a way to play with just the normal buttons without needing the touchscreen at all, or a hybrid between the two. You can also unlock other characters, so their controls may be different than Mario, but I found that either way, using anything but standard mode is kind of frustrating and makes it a bit annoying to play the DS remake. At least it offers some kind of customization, which can't really be said for the original Nintendo 64 release of Super Mario 64. You're pretty much stuck with the default controls when playing on the original console, unless playing on the Wii or Wii U's Virtual Console instead, as the playstyle here can be changed between using the left, center, or right hand default settings, alongside with each button having their own custom configuration to your liking. This is extremely flexible and you can pretty much play the game however you want, including with the original GameCube controller, either by plugging it directly into the Wii or through a homebrew app on the Wii U, whereas on the Switch, going under system settings, controllers, and change button mapping will also let you change every single button to whatever you want. I don't have the Switch's Pro controller to test this out on, but I did find out that Super Mario 64 cannot actually be played with a single Joy-Con, nor does it use any kind of touchscreen. It would have been really nice to mess with Mario's face in the opening sequence here by just touching his face instead. That would have been a really cool feature. It does offer rumble support though, which was available only in the Japanese exclusive Super Mario 64 Shindao Edition, which is the exact version that's being ported over to the Switch in the 3D All-Stars collection. And to top it all off here, just for laughs, some fans actually spent 2 years reverse engineering Super Mario 64 to be natively ported and playable on the PC. So this is not emulation, it's basically a complete remaster with widescreen support, smooth 60 frames per second, texture mod compatibility, and you can pretty much use any controller or custom configuration you want. It's just a shame that Nintendo didn't put this much effort into the Switch release themselves. Moving on to my favorite Mario game and the one I grew up playing the most, Super Mario Sunshine. This game has never been officially ported or made playable on any future Nintendo consoles until now, so I'll be using the original GameCube controller for this comparison. The biggest difference between the two is that the original is played in a 4:3 aspect ratio, whereas the 3D All-Stars collection is 16:9. Starting off with the analog stick, it's used to move Mario as normal in every single direction. Left, right, up and down, and circling around, with the D-pad serving no purpose. With the Switch release, the left analog stick also acts in the same way, moving Mario in every direction possible. The D-pad also does nothing, whereas the C stick controls the camera. Pushing down zooms out, pushing up zooms in, while moving sideways is inverted, so left goes right and right goes left. The right analog stick controls the camera as expected. Pushing down zooms out and pushing up zooms in. However, the inverted sideways movement has been fixed, so turning left goes left and right goes right. Pressing A will cause Mario to jump once, twice, or 3 times if done in a row. B will make Mario go into crouch position. If standing still, he does a small animation, whereas running and then B causes Mario to slide, but B is also used to interact with people and the environment. Both A and B cause Mario to jump, as mentioned before, as well as interact with people and the environment. This is actually pretty annoying. X will switch the different modes for FLUDD, which can be unlocked later when playing through the game, while Y changes the camera mode to look over Mario's shoulder, which makes aiming with FLUDD much easier to control. X acts the same way on the Switch and is used to change the different modes for FLUDD, whereas pushing down on the right analog stick, also known as R3, now changes the camera mode for precise aiming. I don't like this at all, as pressing down on the R3 always feels really fragile to me, as if I'm about to snap the Joy-Con's analog stick right off. It would have really been nice to have a gyro support option similar to Breath of the Wild here. The Y button is instead used to make Mario crouch, which when standing still does the same small animation, whereas running then Y causes Mario to slide. Now, one of the biggest concerns for Sunshine fans when the 3D All-Stars collection was announced was, will the game offer analog controls or use something entirely different? Because for those that don't know, the GameCube controller actually offers analog back triggers, which means that instead of acting as one button, it actually acts as 2, halfway pushed down and fully pressed down to make games like first-person shooters feel more immersive. The Switch does not have analog triggers, so the back buttons only count as one button instead. So walking around without pressing the L trigger will keep the camera behind Mario no matter which way you turn. Halfway pressing the L trigger though will cause the camera to follow Mario's direction. Pressing the L trigger all the way will cause Mario to do this sidestep walk thing. Or, depending on FLUDD's mode, it will also reposition the camera behind Mario. Pressing the ZL back button on the Switch acts as a fully pressed down L trigger on the GameCube. Walking around without pressing the ZL will keep the camera behind Mario no matter which way you turn, or depending on FLUDD's mode, it will also reposition the camera behind Mario. You can't press down halfway in the Switch version, but you can still replicate the half press camera by using the hover mode first and then holding down ZL after. Also, pressing the ZL trigger with the normal mode will cause Mario to do a sidestep walk thing here too, whereas the right trigger is used to control FLUDD. Halfway pressing R will shoot water while also letting Mario run around freely at the same time, whereas holding down R all the way locks Mario's position as the camera follows his direction instead. That's the main way to tell between when the halfway or fully pressed trigger is being used. while the Switch version uses R to mimic the fully pressed trigger button to stop Mario in his tracks and shoot water out of FLUDD, while ZR acts as the halfway pressed trigger button to freely use FLUDD while running around, or as the game likes to put it, running squirt or stop and squirt. Oh my. Pressing start opens the pause screen, no difference between either version here, whereas the select button again doesn't exist on a GameCube controller, while on the Switch it's a similar mini menu to Mario 64 that pauses the game, lets you see the controls, the advanced movesets, and return back to the title screen. Speaking of which, everything can be performed from the original GameCube version just with a different button layout, such as L being used for a butt slam after jumping, whereas ZL does the exact same thing. I'm not going to mention every single move that is possible in Mario Sunshine, just look at the mini menu if you're that curious, but I am happy to say that spinning like a ballerina feels just as responsive in the 3D All-Stars collection. With that said, there is something weird going on with the map when pressing Z. On the GameCube it acts normal and opens right away, whereas in the Switch version, even though it's a small difference, the map is opened with the L trigger and takes a few seconds longer to load. I don't know what's going on with the map here that causes this, but it's just a bit odd. Not only that, but I do find myself accidentally opening the map with L when I'm trying to use FLUDD instead. Luckily, similar to Mario 64 on the Switch, the controls are fully customizable under system settings to feel close to the original game as possible. What is weird though, is that plugging the GameCube adapter into the Switch doesn't work as you would expect with the 3D All-Stars collection. The GameCube controller acts as a USB device instead, meaning you technically can play Super Mario Sunshine using this method. However, the back triggers don't have the analog feedback enabled, so instead of L and R acting like they should, like this, instead they are mapped to the default Switch controls and actually move more like this. And no, you cannot remap them in the system settings either, which makes no sense at all, since Mario Sunshine is a GameCube game being emulated on the Switch. This can easily be patched, as it feels weird playing Sunshine with anything else but a GameCube controller. Not only that, but touchscreen also doesn't do anything for Mario Sunshine in the 3D All-Stars collection. Onwards to the third and final game ported over to the Switch, Super Mario Galaxy. I believe you had to use motion controls with this one, as it heavily used the Wiimotes with one of the game's main mechanics. The Joy-Cons are pretty much upgraded Wiimotes, so let's see what Nintendo did with them here. So starting off, this weird looking device attached to the Wiimote is the nunchuck, and offers two additional buttons alongside an analog stick. Similar to the Joy-Cons, some games can actually be played with the Wiimote held sideways to mimic a traditional controller. Mario Galaxy isn't one of those games, and actually needs the nunchuck to be attached at all times. So the nunchuck's analog stick is used to move Mario in every direction as expected at this point, whereas the D-pad controls the camera, moving it left or right, whereas up zooms into first person mode. Up and down here act normal, but left and right are inverted. Pressing D-pad down will zoom out back to normal, while pressing C on the nunchuck recenters the camera behind Mario. The left analog stick on the Switch though does the exact same thing and also moves Mario in every direction. The D-pad isn't used for anything either, as the right analog stick moves the camera instead. Left brings it left, and right goes right, where up zooms into first person mode, as the controls here act normal instead of being inverted like on the Wii. Pressing down exits back out of this view, while the ZL trigger is used to recenter the camera behind Mario. The Wii also uses a sensor bar, so pointing the Wiimote at it will display a star icon in the game, which is used to either collect falling star bits from the sky or aim to shoot star bits with B at enemies instead. A second Wiimote can also be connected for another player to join along in wasting all your star bits too. The Switch, however, has a built-in infrared center, which after pressing the R trigger on the Joy-Con will bring up the similar star icon. Pressing R again recenters the icon, whereas ZR will shoot out the star bits. This only works in docked mode, as handheld will actually replace this feature with the touchscreen instead unless the Joy-Cons are unattached to the console first. Co-op returns as well, where player 2 uses a single Joy-Con to play along. Similar to Sunshine, I was able to get the GameCube controller working as player 1, but even though the buttons weren't mapped properly, I think you can technically finish the game like this, at least until player 2 ends up annoying you instead. A does Mario's triple jump like in all the other games, while also interacting with the environment around him, while Z is used to crouch into a crab pose, do a backflip after jumping, as well as performing a butt slam. Both A and B can perform Mario's jump move, while also interacting with the environment, whereas ZL is used to crouch, backflip, and butt slam instead. Start and minus pause the game, whereas start pauses the game here, and minus opens the mini menu to unpause, check controls, see advanced movesets, enable co-op mode, and return to the title screen. Now, aside from being widescreen, the big difference in Mario Galaxy is that normally on the Wii version, you can either shake the Wiimote itself or the nunchuck to spin Mario, which is used for a multitude of purposes throughout the game. On the Switch version though, shaking either Joy-Cons does still make Mario spin in the game and serves the same purpose. However, both X and Y can also now be pressed to replicate this move instead, pretty much removing the need for motion controls altogether. I'm quite a huge fan of this, as shaking the entire Switch would have been pretty awkward. Not only that, but the Joy-Cons themselves are so much more comfortable to use than the Wiimotes, with their lightweight design, rechargeable batteries, and no need for an attached nunchuck, that I much prefer how 3D All-Star plays rather than the original. I will give the Wii version credit however, as the Wiimotes are pretty much designed to be played no matter if you are right-handed or left-handed, as the game would interact the same way regardless. Even then, there isn't any customization to be found when playing Mario Galaxy on the Wii, whereas the Switch, under system settings, at least offers every button to be changed to your heart's content, meaning that if you really wanted to, you could technically swap the left-hand controls to the right hand if that feels more natural to you. So overall, every game in the 3D All-Star collection can be played in dock as well as handheld mode, and all share the same controls between the two, aside from Mario Galaxy. Playing with a single Joy-Con is disabled, unless in co-op mode, again for Galaxy, and touchscreen doesn't work for the other two games unless in handheld mode with Mario Galaxy. Rumble is enabled for all three, as well as customizing your controls as long as you are playing with the Joy-Cons. I think it's a fine collection of games, even though they are pretty much emulated, offering little to no enhancements from the original releases, aside for widescreen and Joy-Con support. It would have been nice to have Mario 64 also available in 16:9, Mario Sunshine playable with the GameCube controller with the analog triggers enabled, and Super Mario Galaxy 2 included as well. In the end of the day, let's just hope that Nintendo eventually releases each title separately on either the eShop or Switch Online service, because being available to purchase only until 2021 will make physical copies of this game only get more expensive over time. It hasn't even been a few days since the game released, and I've already seen it sell online for at least over $100. That's insane. Thanks for watching though, ladies and turds. Come visit my Twitch streams to chat with me live, support my Patreon to keep this channel going, comment below which one of these 3 games are you most excited to play, and remember to follow my channel here to be notified when future videos get uploaded. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you on another lovely episode. Goodbye everybody, goodbye. Whoosh.